All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whichever it might be. I'm not quite sure. But today what I wanted to do was break it down into writing the equations of the shifted ellipses and see how we do from that. So let's start with this example. Well, first of all, remember, to get your formulas, if you're back on your multi-view, or not multi-view, excuse me, your calculator, you hit the button that says apps, and you want to look at conics. And then remember, we're talking about ellipses here. There's your two formulas. You can see with the pictures, it's stretched left and right or stretched up and down depending upon where your a value is. Remember, the a squared term is always the larger, and that would tell you if you're up and down or left and right. So let's look at this example. So let's say we have a foci at 3 and 5 and 3 and -1, and vertices, regular vertex, at 3, 6, and 3, -2. So whenever you're given this kind of information, the first thing you want to do is plot it so you can get the idea of where things are going. Plus, that way you can also figure out where your center is located. So let's start with that. 3, 5. And then 3, -1. So right off the bat, you'll notice that the foci are vertical. That tells you it's going to be stretched vertically. Okay. Also, your vertex is at 3, 6 and 3, -2. So, excuse me, we know that it's going to loop around like that. But what we have to do is find the center. So the easiest thing to do is we know that the center has to be the midpoint of either one of these things. Okay? So we know it's going to be the center has to be at 3, something. So what we do is just find out the average of 6 and -2. So 6 plus -2 is 4. Half of that is 2. So our center is at 3, 2. There's our H, and there's our K. You want to label it. Now, we know that the distance from the center to the vertex is A. So your A values, if we count up, 1, 2, 3, 4. So your A value is 4. We also know that the distance from the center to the focus is the C value. Well, the C value here and here is 3. We don't know what the B value is. So what we do is we figure out all the squares. So we start with A squared is 16. Our C squared is 9. To figure out B squared, we have to do a little bit of math. Well, we know that C squared is A squared minus B squared. So 9 has to equal 16 subtract what? Well, last time I checked, 16 minus 7 has to equal 9. So that means your B squared value is 7. Okay, so again, we'll go back and we'll look at our formula. It's got to be stretched up and down, so it's going to be the vertical. Sorry, maybe so you can see it. X minus H quantity squared over B squared plus the Y minus K quantity squared over A squared is 1. Fill in the blanks. Our H and K are 3 and 2, so it's X minus 3 quantity squared over 7 plus Y minus 2, just forgot what I was looking at, all over 16 is 1. And there's our value. Okay. Let's try one more real quick. So one of the other things that I wanted to remind you guys of is when you are trying to be snarky in your comments, when you're putting stuff in, make sure that when you type in or write in things, you're actually using the correct way of writing English. Oh, I'm sorry, this wasn't for Feeney. It was for Pano. Focus. Or foci, excuse me. At 10 and 5 plus the square root of 65. 10, 5 minus the square root of 65. Covertices at 14, 5 and 6, 5. So we start with that. once again, we have to first figure out where is this going to be stretched, which direction and whatnot. So we go ahead and start plotting. Okay. Foci at 10, 8, 9, 10, and 5 and change, and 10 and 5 and change, whatever the other part is. So we'll figure that out here in a second. Let's plot the covertex first. So here's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 5. So if our covertices are this direction, are across from one another horizontally, that means that this again has to be stretched vertically. Okay. Now, we also know that since they share the 5 value, what we're going to do is figure out that where the center is located. So first off, our center has to be on this horizontal part, something 5. Well, I don't know if you noticed this. The focus shared the same value for x. Well, 14 plus 6 is 20. Half of that is 10. So our center, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, is going to be at 10 and 5. All right, well, from here to here is our b value. So our b value is, oops, sorry, that's badly drawn. Our b value is going to be 4, so b squared is 16. So we know that much. Now, without drawing this in, the foci, since we know that our center is at 5, you'll notice that the distance from the center to the focus is always c. Look how this is the same amount added to both to where the center is at. I don't even have to draw it in here because I know that my c value has to be the square root of 65, which means that c squared is 65. You can kind of fudge your way through some of these things without having to draw as much stuff out. Usually all we have to do is draw one of the cleaner values to get us to the center and then be able to figure out whether it's a b or an a. So c squared is a squared minus b squared. So 65 is something subtract 16. Well, math in my head doesn't always work out very well. So 65 has to be 81. And again, we know this has to be stretched vertically because this is our covertices are left and right. So our 81 is our a squared. So we start out again, x minus h, quantity squared over b squared, y minus k, quantity squared over a squared is 1. And we have all of our parts. X minus 10, quantity squared over 16, plus y minus 5, quantity squared over 81 is 1. And there we go. So with any other luck, everything else is posted up on Formative. I believe I gave you guys 2 of these, maybe 3. And we'll go from there. And we'll talk with you guys soon. Thanks.